I'm a big fan of mentorship. I think that's super important if you want to get the most out of your people. But also, at the end of the day, it's how you get the most out of your function. If they get better at what they do, it's just to keep it simple. The better they are, the greater the output of your function will be. You'll drive better products, better roadmaps. You'll likely get products out on time more regularly, or at least earlier rather than later. It all starts to, it'll all start coming together the more your product team knows. So don't shy away from mentorship. Now, some of the other things as a manager of product people that I think is helpful to start to recognize is, I believe that you need to give them goals and objectives, of course, and leave them to do the job often as the way they want to do it. And as long as they're effective, as long as they're hitting their goals and they're developing roadmaps that are defensible with the right level of art and science, then just let them be. Don't tell them exactly how to do the job, and because everyone works differently, right? Just because you approach it one way as a manager doesn't mean that's the right way for everyone. And as long as they're reaching those goals, great. And part of that bargain, I tell my people, is I'm going to leave you alone for the most part, but the bargain is you need to come to me in advance of things going very badly. You can't come to me once it's gone very bad, and at the point where I can't fix it. I can't help, where it's too late. That to me is one of the definitions of failure on the part of anyone and a product person, of like viewing yourself as either an optimist or a superhero, where you wait it out, you think you can fix it, you think you can address it, you continue to wait, you try, you fail, and then all of a sudden, yes, you've derailed and things are bad and it's too late to fix it. And for example, I don't know, we'll keep it simple, your product, you're 1 week before delivery or expected delivery date, and now you need another month. And that's not okay. You can't come to me 1 month before release and say, yeah, I need 400% more time than we have left in this project. Sorry. No, you gotta be at least smart enough in your job to know when there are risk factors in front of you, and know when you can't tackle them without help. As long as you're doing that and you're coming to me early and you're ultimately reaching the goals, I believe in freedom. I believe in don't have, processes and procedures to some extent absolutely have their place, but they really should be more along the lines, in my mind, especially in smaller environments where you have your finger on the pulse of 4, 5, 6 product people, guidelines. You should absolutely have guidelines and mentorship and training, and absolutely giving them advice on what you have found works well for you, maybe not the whole world, but for you, that they may want to consider employing in their daily product lives. But I do believe that it should be advice and not a mandate, unless there's a compelling reason. And at times there are compelling reasons to say, no, we have to do things this way. And sometimes it comes down to from even above you, right? The head of product isn't always the last say on the planet. They have a boss, and there could be some mandates that come from them. And look, you do your best as a head of a product to shield your team from nonsense, for lack of a better word. It doesn't always work. Sometimes the nonsense in your mind has to be done, or things need to be done a certain way. And that's life as a product person, or that's truly life in business or in the world. So I definitely think, don't be too heavy-handed on the how. Be more about hit your goals. And look, a lot of people are going to ask me, well, what are the goals of a product person, or how do you measure them? And truthfully, I like to try to keep it as hard but as simple as you need to have a roadmap that is designed to drive maximum value for the company and be able to defend that roadmap and why it is the X number of ideas in the right order that will maximize value for the company. And from there, that's the goal. And then I say to them, usually when I tell them that that's my expectation, we have a much deeper conversation about, well, how do I defend it? What does that look like? You know, what do you mean by defend it? And, or at least how do I go about getting the information to defend it? And I talk to them about all sorts of market research activities that I've already covered earlier in this talk, about opportunities to learn a lot about what the market demands. And that's what you got to do. If you know the market and what they're asking for, and you've had many, many conversations, that's really all it takes in order to be able to defend a roadmap. Another way of looking at it, and I've done a talk on this not so long ago, is you should know more about the marketplace than anybody else in the company. Think of it that way. If you get there, and that takes time, and I'm not saying, you know, in 1 month's time you'll get there, but in 6 to 12 months time, can you get there? Absolutely. You get yourself there, and that's how you defend a roadmap, because you've had more conversations with existing customers. You've done win-loss analysis. You know what the competitors are doing. You know that stuff. Who's going to argue your roadmap with you? Who's going to tell you the roadmap is wrong when you know all that stuff? Theoretically, I like to argue that you need to understand the market better than the CEO. That's your job. That's ultimately the goal. That's another way of looking at what great product people do. They know the marketplace better than anyone in the company, at least in the aggregate, right? They know more. Maybe they don't know better, because that's a tough word, but they know more in volume. By like just what I said, more conversations. Like, oh, client success has 20 clients and they've heard this idea 3 times from 3 different customers. That sounds like you should go do it, right? That's fairly compelling, but you should then be able to take that idea and go talk to 10, maybe not 10, 8, 7, whatever. I mean, there's no magic number, but the idea is more, to vet it even further, so you understand, like, oh, okay, yeah, they were right. Actually, I spoke to 7 or 8 and they agreed too. This is a fantastic idea. Or the opposite. I spoke to 7 or 8 and not a one of them cares at all. It's just, that's like just one microcosm of the more notion of knowing more.